The mistake: the night shift on the deep space station was always quiet. Most crew members slept, machines hummed, and only a few officers stayed awake to keep watch. Among them was Lieutenant Eric Valen, a young officer who often said the night was both peaceful and dangerous. He sat at the console, eyes fixed on the dark void beyond the glass panels, stars shining like cold fires. The silence was broken only by the soft beeping of scanners. To most, it was just routine, but Eric felt a strange unease that night. The scanner picked up something unusual, a faint signal, weak but steady, coming from the edge of the system. He leaned closer, adjusting the settings, and the signal became sharper. It was not a star, not a comet, not a known ship. The computer asked for a classification, but no data matched. Eric hesitated, his finger hovering over the command to alert the captain. It was only a flicker, only a shadow in the dark. His training told him to report it, but his tired mind whispered that it was nothing. One night, one mistake, he thought, not knowing how true those words would become. Eric silenced the alert, pressed a command, and marked the signal as an error. The scanner lights dimmed, and silence returned. But far beyond the station, in the deep darkness, something awakened. Hours later, when the rest of the crew woke, everything seemed normal. The captain walked the deck, the engineers checked the engines, and the medics prepared their daily reports. No one noticed Eric's choice. No one questioned the silent corner of the scanner logs. Yet Eric could not shake the feeling. The stars looked different, like eyes watching from afar. He rubbed his face, telling himself it was only fatigue, only imagination. But the universe does not forgive mistakes. The next night, during his watch again, the scanners flickered, lights blinked, and the same signal returned, stronger than before. This time it carried rhythm, like a heartbeat, steady and alive. Eric froze, staring at the pulsing glow. He whispered to himself, "This is not error. This is something real." His chest tightened, sweat formed on his brow. If he reported it now, the captain would ask why he ignored it before. His career might end, his honor destroyed. So he kept silent again. Outside the station, far in the black, a shape began to move. No human eye could see it yet, but sensors felt its touch. The signal grew louder, faster, like drums in the night. Machines trembled as though the station itself could sense danger. Eric looked around, but no one else noticed. The crew laughed in the mess hall. Engineers sang while fixing pipes. Only he sat in silence, haunted by a sound that no one else could hear. He replayed the first moment in his mind, the choice he made with one simple press of a button. If he had raised the alarm, maybe the fleet would have been ready. Maybe they could have scanned the edges of space before the shadow stirred. But now, because of him, it was awake. Days passed. The signal grew stronger. Finally, others began to notice strange malfunctions. Power flickered, lights dimmed, and whispers of fear spread. Eric stayed quiet, biting his tongue as guilt burned inside him. Every sound reminded him of the signal. Every shadow reminded him of the choice. One night, one mistake. Then, the event happened on the seventh night. Alarms screamed across the station. The scanners lit up with red warnings. The crew rushed to their stations, through the glass. The void shivered, and for the first time they all saw it. A vessel unlike anything known, drifting closer with movements that seemed alive. It pulsed, with light, strange colors bending across its surface. The captain shouted orders, but no command could change what was already unfolding. Eric stood frozen, heart hammering. He knew the truth before anyone else. This was not random, not chance. This was the answer to the signal he had ignored. The mistake was alive, and now it had come for them. The alien ship stopped outside the station, silent and massive. No weapons fired, no greeting sent. Only that heartbeat rhythm echoing through the scanners. Every officer stared in fear, whispering questions. But Eric could not speak. He wanted to confess, to tell them that he had seen the first sign days ago, that he had chosen silence. But the words stuck in his throat. Because now it was too late, and so the fate of two species changed forever. Not with a great war, not with a heroic battle, but with one night and one mistake, the encounter. The station floated in silence. Yet the silence was heavy. The crew did not sleep. They gathered near the observation deck, eyes fixed on the glowing shape outside. It was not metal, not stone, not anything they had seen before. The vessel seemed alive, its surface rippling like water, light sliding across it like veins. No signal of welcome, no words of peace, no weapon raised, only waiting. The crew whispered among themselves, fear mixing with wonder. Some thought it was a ghost, some thought it was a trap, and a few prayed it was a dream. The captain ordered calm, but calm was impossible. Every scanner failed to explain the ship. Every machine called it unknown. The heartbeat signal still pulsed, slow and steady, like the breathing of a giant. And deep inside, Eric felt it calling to him. He tried to ignore it, but each beat matched his own pulse. It was not the station they were watching, it was him. He could feel the truth. Though he dared not speak it, the encounter began without warning. A beam of pale light stretched from the alien ship, touching the hull of the station like a finger. Alarms rang. Soldiers rushed to weapons. Engineers screamed for power. But no attack came. Instead, the light moved across the hull like it was searching. Then it stopped, fixed on one single window. The observation deck grew brighter, shadows stretching as the alien glow burned through the glass. And in that glow, something moved. Not a machine, not a laser, but a figure, tall and strange. The figure stood in the beam as though space itself obeyed it. It had no suit, no mask, yet it breathed the void. Its form was human-like, but wrong, too graceful, too fluid. Eyes of silver light turned, and they looked straight at Eric. Not the captain, not the soldiers, not the crew. It looked only at him. The station gasped as one. The alien lifted a hand, slow and calm, and though no words were spoken, every mind felt the same whisper. We found you. Panic swept the deck. Soldiers raised weapons. The captain shouted to hold fire. But Eric could not move. The silver eyes held him, chains of light binding him in silence. He felt his thoughts spill like water, memories flashing his childhood, his training, the moment he silenced the signal. The alien saw it all. It knew his mistake. It knew his guilt. Yet the eyes showed no anger, only recognition. The beam faded. The figure dissolved back into the ship. But the link remained. Eric felt something inside him change. It was as if a door had opened, and through it, a voice echoed, "You are chosen." He collapsed to his knees, gasping for air, his heart racing. Crew members rushed to him, shaking his shoulders, asking what happened, but he could not answer. For how could he explain that an entire alien race had looked at him and no one else? The captain ordered the ship's defenses to full power. Missiles, cannons, energy shields all armed. But even with all their weapons, the crew felt like children, pointing sticks at a storm. The alien vessel did not move. It only pulsed, waiting, watching. Hours passed. Tension thick as iron. Every sound felt like thunder. Every flicker of light a sign of doom, and all the while, Eric heard the whisper inside. Not from the speakers, not from the scanners, but from his own mind. "Come to us." Fear grew into suspicion. The crew noticed Eric's trembling, his distant eyes, his silence. Some asked if he was sick. Others whispered if he was marked. When the lights flickered again, one soldier pointed at him and shouted, "They are here for him." The words spread like fire. Mistrust burned in their eyes, and Eric felt more alone than ever. Then, the alien ship moved. Its surface split open like a flower, revealing a corridor of light. The signal surged louder, shaking the scanners, rattling the hull. The invitation was clear. It wanted someone to enter. And though no name was spoken, everyone knew who. The crew turned their eyes on Eric. The silence around him felt heavier than any weapon. Even the captain could not hide the truth. The mistake had called the aliens, but the encounter had chosen him. The bond of the corridor of light remained open, glowing in the dark void. No one dared move, no one dared speak. The station's alarms had gone silent, as if the machines themselves held their breath. Inside the command deck, all eyes stayed fixed. On Eric, it was not a request, not a question. Everyone knew the truth. The invitation was for him. The captain's voice broke the silence, firm but shaking. "Lieutenant Valen, report." Eric rose slowly, his body heavy as stone. He wanted to say he was fine, that he was loyal, that this had nothing to do with him, but the words would not come. Instead, his chest burned with a pressure he could not explain. The signal was not just sound now, it was inside him, alive. And each pulse whispered the same command: step forward. The crew watched with fear and suspicion. Some reached for their weapons, others prayed under their breath. Eric felt their eyes stab into him, full of doubt. He wanted to scream that he had not asked for this, that he was no traitor. But deep inside he knew the mistake was his. He had silenced the first signal, and now he was bound to it. There was no escape. Slowly, he walked to the observation deck. The glow from the alien corridor painted his face pale. The closer he came, the stronger the voice became. Not harsh, not cruel, but steady, like a tide pulling him into the sea. At the window, he stopped, staring at the path of light that stretched from the alien ship. And in that moment, his fear shifted. He was no longer afraid of the aliens. He was afraid of himself. Without warning, the beam brightened. The corridor expanded, and a figure stepped forward again. It was the same being with silver eyes, but this time it did not stand in the void. This time it entered the station. The glow wrapped around its form like a shield. The air bent in, shimmered, yet no glass broke, no walls burned. The figure simply walked, calm and certain, and every step made the crew shrink back in fear. When it reached Eric, the being stopped. Its eyes glowed brighter, reflecting his own terrified face. The voice entered his mind, clearer than before. "You silenced the call," it said. Eric trembled, shame pressing down like chains. "Yes," he whispered inside his thoughts, though his lips never moved. The alien tilted its head, not in anger but in curiosity. "You carry it now. The bond cannot be broken." Before he could react, the alien reached out and touched his chest. No pain, no wound, only light. The glow spread from its hand into him, racing through his veins like fire. Eric gasped, his knees buckling, visions flashing in his mind. He saw stars collapsing, worlds burning, rivers of time flowing backward, and in the middle of it all, two species, humans and the silver-eyed. Kind intertwined, bound by something older than memory, older than history. He fell to the ground, clutching his chest, but the light did not fade. The crew rushed forward, but the alien raised its hand, and they froze in place, not by force, but by fear. Everyone knew they could not stop what was happening. Eric's screams filled the deck, his voice raw, but slowly the screams turned into silence. His breathing steadied, his eyes opened, and when they did, they glowed faintly with the same silver light. The alien spoke again, but not aloud, only in his mind. "You are bridge. You are bond. Your mistake awakened what was hidden." Eric shook his head, his voice breaking. "I don't want this. I am only a man. I am nothing." The alien leaned closer, its voice soft yet unshakable. "You are more than man now. You are chosen, and through you, peace or war will come." Bond had been sealed. He felt it inside him, heavy and unyielding. His blood no longer felt like his own. His thoughts no longer belonged only to him. When he looked at the alien, he felt no fear, only connection, as if he had known them forever, as if they were part of him, and deep down, a terrifying truth rose in his mind. The bond could not be undone, not by him, not by anyone. The captain finally found his voice, shouting for the alien to step back. Soldiers raised weapons again. The crew moved to protect their command, but the alien only smiled, fading back toward the corridor of light. Its final words echoed in every mind. The bond is made and destiny begins. The corridor closed, the glow vanished, and the alien ship fell silent once more. But nothing on the station would ever be the same. Eric lay on the floor, trembling, eyes dim but still carrying a faint glow. The crew stared at him with a mix of fear and awe. Some whispered he was marked, some whispered he was no longer human. And Eric, still breathing hard, whispered only 4 words: bound forever, by mistake. The conflict. The station was no longer the same. Every corridor carried whispers. Every shadow carried fear. Crew members walked past Eric with lowered eyes, some avoiding him, some staring too long. He felt the bond inside his chest with every heartbeat, a silver echo that never faded. The alien ship still hovered outside, silent and unmoving. Its presence was like a storm waiting to break. The captain called an emergency council. Officers filled the command room, their voices sharp and heavy. Words like threat, war, destruction filled the air. Some demanded weapons be fired. Others spoke of retreat. A few dared whisper peace. But all eyes turned to Eric. He sat in the corner, silent. His very breath seemed dangerous to them. Lieutenant Valen is compromised. One officer shouted, "He is bonded. He is no longer one of us." Another added. Eric clenched his fists, but said nothing. The bond was alive inside him, and the alien's voice still lingered in his mind. "You are Bridge," it had said. But to his own people, he was a traitor. The captain's voice cut through the noise. "No one fires until I give the order." Yet even in her firm tone, there was doubt. Her gaze lingered on Eric too long. The council broke apart, but the conflict did not end. It only grew. That night, soldiers gathered in secret. Their anger whispered through the halls. They spoke of killing the alien ship before it acted. They spoke of removing Eric before he betrayed them all. Their words were sharp, their faces grim, and Eric felt it, even before they moved. The bond let him sense their hatred, their fear. It bled into him like poison. The next day, the alien ship stirred. Its surface rippled like a lake, lights running across it like veins of fire. The scanners screamed warnings, weapons charged on the station. Every crew member ran to their posts. The conflict had become real. The alien ship did not fire. It only released smaller vessels. They glided through the void like living shadows. Surrounding the station, panic spread. Soldiers aimed cannons. The captain shouted orders, but before the first shot could be fired, the alien voice whispered again in Eric's mind. "Stop them, or war begins." He rushed to the command deck, his breath sharp, his hands shaking. "Do not fire," he shouted. The crew turned, their eyes blazing with distrust. One officer sneered, "He speaks for them now." The captain's hand hovered over the fire control, her jaw tight. Eric stepped forward, desperate. "If you fire, they will destroy us all. They came for me, not for war." The silence in the deck was heavier than any weapon. Some believed him, most did not. But before a decision could be made, the aliens acted. One of the smaller vessels docked with the station. Its hull opened like flesh, and light spilled into the docking bay. Soldiers screamed, raising their rifles, and from the glow, figures stepped inside. Tall, silver-eyed beings walked calmly into the station. No weapons in their hands, no armor on their bodies. Yet the soldiers trembled. One wrong move, one wrong shot, and blood would fill the halls. The captain ordered everyone to hold. But the soldiers' hands shook, fingers brushing triggers. The aliens stood still, their eyes searching, until they found Eric. One raised its hand, pointing at him. The voice entered his mind again. "You are bond, you are ours," the soldiers shouted in rage, their weapons rising higher. Eric raised his hands, shouting back, "Stop, please. They are not here to kill us." But no one listened. The bond burned hotter, filling his chest with pain. He felt both sides, the humans' fear, the aliens' calm, and they collided inside him like fire. At last, the captain spoke, her voice breaking the storm. "Stand down, all of you." The soldiers froze, their fingers trembling inches from the triggers. The aliens did not move, their silver eyes unblinking. Eric stood between them, sweat dripping down his face. If even one shot fired, everything would end. The standoff lasted seconds, but it felt like hours. Then, without warning, the alien nearest Eric spoke not in his mind, but aloud. Its voice was deep, resonant, carrying words that chilled every ear. Your world must choose. The meaning was clear. This was no longer only Eric's mistake, no longer only his bond. This was a conflict for humanity itself. One choice could bring peace, one choice could bring war. And the weight of that choice pressed down on the station like the gravity of a dying star. The truth, the words hung in the air like thunder. Your world must choose, the alien had said. And silence crushed the command deck. No one moved, no one spoke. Every human eye flicked between Eric and the silver-eyed beings. It felt as if the entire galaxy waited for his answer. The captain broke the silence first, her voice low but steady. What choice? What are you demanding? The alien's gaze did not turn to her. It stayed locked on Eric. The choice has already begun, it said, its voice echoing like waves. In stone, long before this station, long before your birth, the bond was written. Eric felt the burn in his chest again, the silver light pulsing under his skin. The whispers in his mind grew louder, visions flashing once more. He saw ruins of worlds, skies on fire, oceans boiling, and in those visions stood both humans and silver-eyed beings, side by side, not enemies, not strangers, but something closer. He gasped, gripping the console for support. The crew watched in fear, some stepping back, others whispering prayers. What do you mean? Eric forced the words out, his throat dry. The alien's eyes glowed brighter. You are not first, it said. Your kind and ours walked the stars together once. Long ago, the crew erupted in shouts, some calling it lies, others demanding proof. But the alien ignored them all, speaking only to Eric. The call you silenced was not warning. It was awakening. The blood in you remembers. Eric staggered, his heart racing. My blood, he whispered. What do you mean, my blood? The alien stepped closer, its presence heavy but calm. In every human lies a shadow of us, a spark, hidden in the strands of your being. But only some carry the key, only some can answer the bond. You are one of them. The crew stared in disbelief, their fear deepening. One officer slammed his fist against the console, shouting, lies, tricks. You want to divide us. But Eric knew the truth, he could feel it. The visions in his mind were not tricks, they were memories, ancient and heavy, passed down in silence until his mistake had awakened them. The alien's voice softened, almost like a whisper. Your mistake was not accident, it was destiny. One night changed everything because it was meant to. Eric shook his head, sweat dripping down his brow. No, I am no chosen one, I am no bridge. I am only a soldier who made a mistake. The alien tilted its head, and yet here you stand alive, burning with light no other carries. You feel us, you hear us, you are bond. The tension in the room thickened. The soldiers raised weapons again, their fear boiling into rage. The captain raised her hand to stop them, but even her eyes held doubt now. Why him? She asked. Why not another? Why force this burden on one man? The alien turned its silver gaze toward her. Because fate is not choice, fate is. Chain, he silenced the call, and by doing so, he unlocked it. Eric fell to his knees, clutching his chest. Visions poured into him faster now, unstoppable. He saw humans kneeling beside silver-eyed beings. Hands joined, worlds rebuilt after war. He saw great fires that destroyed galaxies. And in the center of both peace and destruction, he saw himself, not as Eric Valen, but as something more. A bridge, a bond, a key. Tears stung his eyes, the weight of truth crushing him. The alien stepped closer, its hand hovering over his head. Do you see now? It whispered. Eric raised his head slowly, his glowing eyes reflecting its own. Yes, he whispered back. I see. But the truth was more terrifying than any lie, because if the bond was real, then war or peace for both species rested on his shoulders. If he failed, humanity would burn. If he chose wrong, the galaxy would drown in fire, and the crew, watching him with suspicion, did not see a savior. They saw a weapon they could not control. The alien lowered its hand, stepping back into the glow. Its final words echoed through every mind. The truth is not gift, the truth is weight, and he will carry it for all. The corridor of light began to close, the alien figures fading. Back into their ship, the crew erupted in shouts and panic, some calling to fire, some calling to run. But Eric stayed silent, staring into the void, because he now knew what they did not. One night had not cursed him, it had chosen him. And the truth was clear. He was bound forever, not by mistake, but by destiny. The sacrifice. The alarms screamed like dying stars. The station shook as warning lights flashed across every corridor. Outside, the alien fleet pulsed with power, their living ships circling like predators. Inside, human soldiers ran through the decks, weapons charged, voices raised in panic. The fragile balance had broken. The conflict had become war. Eric stood in the command deck, his chest burning with the bond's silver fire. He could feel the alien voices pressing into his mind. Not with words, but with need. They demanded choice. They demanded action. At the same time, the crew around him shouted accusations, their fear sharper than blades. "He will betray us," one cried. "He already belongs to them," another screamed. The captain tried to restore order, but the storm was too strong. The crew no longer trusted Eric, and yet without him, they had no hope. The alien fleet moved closer, their lights shifting like tides of fire. Scanners warned of energy, surges powerful enough to tear the station apart. The captain turned to Eric, her face pale, her voice shaking. "Tell me what they want. Tell me how to stop this." Eric swallowed hard, his throat dry. "They want me," he whispered. "They want the bond, and if I go, the war can end." Gasps spread through the deck. Some demanded he be given over. Others shouted that he must stay and fight. But deep inside, Eric already knew the truth. The visions had shown him. The bond had whispered it. Only sacrifice would end this. Not weapons, not armies, not words, but him. The captain grabbed his shoulder, her eyes fierce. "No, there must be another way." Eric shook his head slowly. "There is not. If I stay, they will destroy us. If I go, maybe both sides survive." The weight of his words sank into the room like lead. No one could deny it. No one could change it. The station trembled again, walls creaking, sparks raining from the ceiling. A smaller alien vessel docked with the station, its glow cutting through the smoke and chaos. Soldiers raised weapons, but Eric raised his hand. "Do not fight. This is for me." He stepped forward, each step heavier than the last. Every eye followed him, some filled with fear, some with hate, some with sorrow. As he neared the docking bay, the bond flared brighter. The alien voice filled his mind again, calm and certain. "You are ready. Come to us. Bridge must be complete." Eric's chest ached, but he kept walking. He thought of Earth, of home, of the stars he had dreamed of as a child. He thought of his mistake, the night he silenced the call. And he knew now that mistake had led him here, to this path, to this end. The docking bay doors opened, flooding the room with silver light. The alien stood there, waiting, its eyes steady. Eric turned back one last time, his gaze finding the captain. Tell them this was my choice," he said softly. The captain's lips trembled, but no words came. She only gave a small nod, her eyes wet, and then Eric stepped into the light. The bond exploded within him. No longer just fire, but a storm. Visions consumed him, worlds burning, galaxies collapsing. Yet also peace, unity, survival. He felt his body dissolve, not with pain but with release. The alien reached out, and their hands touched. In that moment, human and alien minds merged. Their thoughts flowing into one river. Eric was no longer alone. He was no longer only himself. He was bridge, he was bond, he was sacrifice. Back on the station, scanners showed the alien fleet powering down, weapons dimmed, lights softened, the threat faded. The war that could have ended humanity stopped in silence. The crew watched in awe as the silver glow spread through the void. But Eric was gone, inside the alien core, his mind still burned. He was not dead, not alive, something beyond, bound. Forever to the alien race, guiding them, holding them back from destruction, but also bound to humanity, carrying its memory, its fire, its hope. The bond was complete, but the cost was everything. On the station, the captain whispered into the captain. Silence. One man saved us, one mistake became our only chance. And though the crew mourned, though suspicion still lingered, they knew the truth. Eric's sacrifice had saved them all. But in the depth of space, in the silver glow of alien eyes, the whisper remained. This is not end, this is beginning. Bound forever, the station drifted in silence. For the first time in days, the alarms were gone. The scanners were calm, the weapons quiet, but the silence did not feel like peace. It felt heavy, like the shadow of something greater waiting beyond. The stars, the crew stood at the observation deck, their faces pale, their eyes hollow. Outside, the alien fleet no longer circled like predators. Their vessels had dimmed, floating with strange calm. The living lights across their surfaces pulsed in rhythm, steady and slow, not war drums anymore, but something like a heartbeat. The captain's voice was low when she spoke. He did it, she whispered. He gave himself for us. No one answered, for no answer was needed. Every man and woman on that station knew the truth. Lieutenant Eric Valen was gone, but his choice had saved them all. Yet even as grief settled into the halls, strange whispers began. Some said they had seen his face in the glow of the alien ships. Others swore they heard his voice in the walls. The bond was not broken. It was alive, reaching into every shadow, every light. Eric's body was gone, but his mind burned across the bridge he had created. He felt the thoughts of the aliens as his own, their fears, their hunger, their longing. He also carried the fire of humanity, its stubborn will, its fierce heart. Bound between them, he was no longer one man, but something greater, a living thread tying two species together. The aliens spoke no more words, but their ships began to move. Not in attack, not in retreat, but in formation. They aligned themselves around the station like sentinels, their lights glowing softly. The crew watched in awe and fear. It was not victory, it was not surrender, it was something new, something that made every human heart beat faster. The captain addressed the crew, her voice firm but weary. This is not end. This is the beginning of something larger than any of us. We must live with the bond he has made. But even as she spoke, her eyes flicked to the void, because she too could feel it. Eric was still there, watching, guiding, bound in the alien core. Eric's thoughts drifted like rivers of light. He could see stars being born, galaxies spinning, ages rising and falling. He was not human anymore, not alien either. He was both, and he was neither. He was the bridge that could not be. Undone, at times he felt the loneliness of sacrifice, the ache of knowing he would never walk the halls of the station again, never feel the weight of his own body again. But at other times he felt wonder. He could touch the thoughts of thousands at once, hear the songs of alien minds, carry the dreams of humanity. And through him, they were no longer enemies. They were connected, even if fragile, even if uncertain. The crew on the station tried to return to normal duty. Engines repaired, reports filed, rations served. But nothing was normal anymore, because when they looked out at the stars, they no longer saw emptiness. They saw eyes watching, hearts beating, a presence that would never leave. Whispers spread across human space when the story was told. Some called Eric a hero, others called him a traitor. Some said he had sold humanity's soul. Others said he had saved it, but no one could deny the truth. One night had changed everything. The alien fleet did not depart. They lingered, not as invaders, not as conquerors, but as guardians, bound by the same choice, bound by the same sacrifice. Whenever humans raised their weapons in fear, the silver glow reminded them the bond still lived, and so did he, and deep in the silence of space, Eric's voice whispered once more, not to one, not to many, but to all, "Do not fear. I am with you, always." The words carried no anger, no sorrow, only calm. The bond was eternal, the sacrifice unbroken. The captain stood alone at the window, her hands clasped behind her back. Her reflection met the silver glow of the alien ships. Her lips parted as she spoke softly to the stars. "You were right, Eric. One mistake. One night, and now forever." The stars shimmered. The alien ships pulsed, and the silence deepened. But it was no longer empty silence. It was silence filled with the weight of destiny. The man was gone, but the bond remained. And humanity would never be the same again, because Eric Valen was bound forever, not by chains, not by choice, not even by mistake, but by destiny that could not be undone.